USA Ultimate is proud to present the 2015 College National Championship Men's Final under the lights tonight. 7th-seeded Central Florida, 3rd-seeded North Carolina live from E-Line Soccer Park in Milwaukee. Just about a half hour ago, Oregon put the cap on the semifinals and made it to the final round for the first time since '03, beating Florida State 15-12. I'm Jim Barber. This is Evan Lepler. Welcome back to Milwaukee. 4th and final game of the day. Could be the best one of all. And Jonathan Nethercutt got the best news of all earlier today for Carolina. He won the Callahan Award. Now he's got to come back and play a game tonight. So it's been an electric day for him, and as the coach said, a very full day at that.
No question about it, and I can guarantee you Jonathan Nethercutt is focused on one thing right now. It's trying to win his team a championship. Every guy that's won a Callahan, whether it's been George Stubbs, Nick Lance, Dylan Freechild, Jimmy Mickle, or now Jonathan Nethercutt, who's part of the club, the goal is the team goal, and it's a team award as much as it's an individual award, praising what North Carolina has done, not just this year, but the past couple of years. You saw Nethercutt break out in the semifinals last year against UNC Wilmington, and the guys on Dark Side think the experience from last year will be invaluable this year. Gigantic throws, his defense is underrated. North Carolina plays a big game, but so does UCF, and the question of who's going to try to neutralize one another is very interesting.
Jeremy Langdon will be that man for a team that found its program back in 1985, located in Orlando, Florida, and eliminated in the 14 college championship in the first round. So some big moments tonight, and Langdon's going to come up huge.
Jeremy Langdon starting on the D-line for head coach Andrew Roca. That's a luxury to have a guy this talented play D, but he's been a guy who's neutralized the other team's top handler throughout the tournament. They're going to have him on Nethercutt to start. If they can prevent Nethercutt from getting the easy resets he's so used to, that'll go a long way. UCF offensively, they're thinking big. They play big. They beat Pitt this morning. They were in the championship game 2 years ago. They've been in this spot before. They try to get back to Memorial Day Monday.
I think, Evan, this is the most anticipated game of the day and night. Next, UCF and North Carolina on E3. The 2015 USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by Discraft Ultrastar, the official disc of USA Ultimate. Ask your retailer for Discraft Ultrastar. Tour the premier competitive experience. And by USA Ultimate, the national governing body for the sport of ultimate in the United States. For more information or to ultimate, visit usaultimate.org. Starting lineup for 7th-seeded UCF, the Cutters are Terry Murphy, Michael Fairley, the great Jeremy Langdon, and Stuart Not So Little. And the handlers Alex Bullock, Zachary Marks, and Austin Mercandante, the coach, and he's an intense one, and Andrew Roca. For North Carolina and the Dark Side, Cutters are Aaron Warschauer, Norman Archer, and Jimmy Zuraw. The handlers Justin Moore, Matt Guchahanis, Ben Snell, and the great Jonathan Nethercutt. Mike Donardis is the boss. Dark Side and the Dogs of War, and what you need to know about the game of ultimate. 7 to a side. First team to 15 wins. The halfway point is 8 goals by either team. Disc may advance in any direction. Player can't run with the disc. That would be called traveling. Must throw the disc within 10 seconds. The game is self-officiated with a little help from 4 observers. And teams switch ends after each score. An offense can complete a pass in an opponent end zone. And that's all you need to be up to date on as we get set for the 4th and final game under a little clearer skies than we had earlier today anyway.
We talked about Nethercutt and Langdon, but these are not one-man teams by any means. You know, Ben Snell is going to launch this opening pull with the disc right there, number 77. He's a vital guy to watch. A year ago at this time, he was out with a torn ACL. He's battled back all season long, getting close to 100% at a scary moment this morning against Colorado when he got shaken up, but he's all right. He wouldn't miss this game, especially after what happened last year.
Dark Side starts the game with a pull. That means UCF starts with the disc. First offensive series of the game.
Stuart Little and Michael Fairley are the top two deep cutters for UCF. And a great job keeping that alive right there.
Little is 74. Michael Fairley is number 5. Handling right now is Brawley Adams, number 1. This one headed out of bounds. Good layout, but Michael Fairley unable to haul it inbounds, and so it's the first turnover of the game.
Langdon will pick up Nethercutt here. Earlier this season, Jim, North Carolina was a very different team. Ben Snell was playing behind the disc as a reset handler. His knee was not 100%. Now he's much more active, embracing his true role, downfield cutter, but he's got the throws as well. Snell is really 1B with Nethercutt's 1A on UNC. Great bid by Fairley. I think he leapt from just inbounds, but obviously could not get the first point of contact in.
I'm watching the Langley and Nethercutt matchup, 24 versus 25, and Langdon is putting a body on him so far. He's getting a little bit of contact out there.
These are two guys that'll both be representing Team USA and the U23 teams in London this July.
Right now, both are at midfield.
Oh, that was a bad throw, a bullet.
So dark side with a turnover. And the Dogs of War back with the offense, second series and shooting deep. They score!
Ben Snell a little shaken up. Langdon and Fairley were both there. Snell looks like he's calling a foul. Let's see. Pretty good throw from Brawley Adams. I mean, Snell did get crunched from Fairley by Fairley from behind. Ooh. What do you think, Jim?
Well, you got 3 going for the disc. Certainly wasn't intentional, and even Snell was using his right hand a little bit. It's not what I would have decided. How about you?
Well, it's a contested foul. Neither side wanted to go to the observer. North Carolina went to the observer, and the observer said, no, it's a goal. If UCF went to the observer, and the observer said no, and the other way, it's UNC's disc.
Right.
So safer for both sides to simply send it back.
It remains scoreless. Central Florida continues to stay with the disc. Stuart Little is 74. He gets it back, and it's 1-0. He's a big man out there.
So UCF, despite the turnover, able to hold on their opening offensive point. Stuart Little, just a junior, 2 years ago when UCF made it to the finals, he was a young freshman. He still wasn't little, and he was learning the game. Andrew Roca 2 years ago was so excited about what this guy could become. Now he's a junior captain, 6'4" from Longwood, Florida. Part of the club team, Omen, that almost made it to nationals. A lot of UCF blood on that team that shocked perennial power Atlanta Chain Lightning at club regionals last year. Just this UCF team has incredible size and athleticism, and I think that's the biggest reason that they beat Pittsburgh earlier today. Pittsburgh could not match up with UCF deep. The disc skills that Pittsburgh possessed were probably superior, but UCF, from an athleticism standpoint, from an energy standpoint, they play with a swagger. In fact, Andrew Roca said before the game, one of our keys is to stay salty. I asked him what that meant. He said, we want to be fierce. We want to be angry. We got to play with an attitude. That's how they beat Carleton in the semifinal game 2 years ago.
Stuart Little, 21st goal of the weekend. Good start for the Dogs of War, up 1-0. Jeremy Langdon keeping a beat on the Callahan winner, Jonathan Nethercutt.
Here it comes. Snell and Warschauer both there, but it's Little.
Back to knock it away, intended for Warschauer.
Goodness gracious.
He covers some ground, doesn't he?
That is a remarkable layout for a guy anyone's size, let alone Stuart Little, listed at 6'4", 200, and those numbers might be modest.
Yeah. So Little already figuring strongly in this game just in the opening minutes.
A careless mistake to give the disc right back. That was interesting right there. Warschauer and Snell, I don't want to say they canceled each other out. Little made a great play, but you don't typically want two guys going deep. Those are both great deep cutters, Warschauer and Snell. One better than two, though.
Yep. Pick being called as right now the disc is in the hands of Jonathan Nethercutt, and he is being shadowed. The mark being Jeremy Langdon. That's a great matchup tonight that we'll be focusing on more often than not. Think about how many touches Nethercutt will get
when you're ready, go ahead.
With Langdon's pressure.
Well, that's the key. They're just trying to make every touch a difficult one.
Off the pass from Ben Snell. Carolina fights back, but wait a minute, we've got a whistle back at the middle of the field.
Metaphorical whistle indeed.
Which means?
There's no tweet on the field, but the play stopped because there was a call.
No.
Sometimes I think the
so
observers could use whistles to
ready,
try to stop the game. And they're relying on being able to hear each other, which in moments like this is not always a given.
It's really not a bad idea when you think about it.
And finally, North Carolina able to punch it in with Jimmy Zura.
And that brings us even at 1.
So I'm really curious how this game is going to unfold from a chess match perspective. Take a look at the highlight and then get into that. That's an easy backhand from Snell. I honestly believe that Ben Snell could be the pilot of a victory here. He could be the center handler to lead UNC in the Nethercutt role. If Jeremy Langdon gives Nutt that much trouble in that center handler spot, does North Carolina consider doing something they really haven't done all year, which is use Nethercutt as a downfield guy, more of an initiator? Because I think Nethercutt has that aspect of his game too, but it's just not something that people see because he's so good and reliable with the disc in his hands in the backfield. They usually don't use him that way.
Well, it's a good point because the activity away from the disc, Langdon's not giving any space out there to Nethercutt, so it's going to be harder for Nethercutt, I think, to get to the disc. At least that certainly seems to be the defensive intention right now, is take it out of his hands.
You know, in some other games in this tournament, after a score, guys like Nethercutt, maybe even Snell, might not be out there on the D-line. It's important in this game. J.D. Hastings and Nathan Quan are two tiny spark plugs for UNC. Quan, a freshman, listed at 5'2". Hastings, a junior, listed at 5'5". They are both fierce and feisty and very strong for the UNC D-line.
Moments ago, Langdon on the hammer to Mercandante. Central Florida controlling in a 1-1 game just moments in to the second and final men's semifinal.
No, one behind, one behind.
Earlier winner tonight, Oregon over Florida State 15-12.
A lot of talk throughout the season, Jim, about how North Carolina didn't excel to their potential. I was chatting with head coach Mike DeNardis about that yesterday, and he said they were saving a lot of their special defensive sets for regionals and nationals. They struggled against UNC Wilmington early in the season. They beat them pretty handily at regionals to win the Atlantic Coast region. And at nationals, they've basically sliced through teams, some special jump defenses that they didn't show last year.
Stays here on 1.
A year ago, maybe about 13 months ago, excellent website Ultiworld published a very detailed video review of UNC's offense and defense as UCF hits Langdon deep. The fact that Ultiworld published that really changed the way UNC went about its business this season.
Really?
They kept stuff hidden through much of the regular season, saving it for late, saving it for this type of atmosphere. And it's an interesting development in the course of Ultimate.
Of course, the contrary argument, as you see, Langdon on a receiving end for the go-ahead goal is the fact is if you don't use it, can you make it as effective when you need it the most?
I think they were practicing it. I think they were, exploring it in practices and against local club teams in scrimmages. But they didn't want there to be a lot of film of some of this new strategy that they were planning to implement. Because I think UNC feels that this is the year. This is the last chance for Nethercutt, the last chance for Snell, the last chance for Jimmy Zuraw and Justin Moore. Tim McAllister is a senior. Not sure if he's got a fifth year. I mean, UNC is going to be young next year. They made the finals a year ago. Lost to Jimmy Mickle in Colorado. It was Mama Bird's year. But this is a different season. I think UNC thinks that this is their year. I'm sure UCF feels the same way, as Brawley Adams has picked up a couple of assists in the early stages of the first half.
North Carolina and Nethercutt now with a disc.
Biggest piece from last year that UNC is missing this year, obviously Christian Johnson. Tremendous deep cutter, but with Snell being healthy, he can fill in some of that gap without having Johnson on the field.
Might be an equipment issue
Michael,
right now.
out of trouble. We're coming one. They're right there.
Or maybe an injury. Justin Moore was down for the moment. Now he's walking it off. And Moore will come out of the game for the moment.
Jeff, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out.
Vikram Sutherman will step in his place. 2-1 in favor of Central Florida, the Dogs of War and Darkside.
Nethercutt taken off deep, but Snell chose to feed it back to the dump.
Is that the strategy you expect, to try to get Nethercutt a little freer out there?
It's interesting. I mean, he is an above average athlete and probably doesn't get enough credit for his downfield cutting ability just because he doesn't show it off that often.
They're coming on.
It's almost like a point guard in basketball not getting any room to breathe, and suddenly if he's tall enough, he goes and posts.
No
just so he
question
can get
about
another
it.
look.
Chris Paul, Mark Jackson, those guys can score too.
Turnover there, a nice breakup. By number 8, Alex Bullock, and an opportunity now for Central Florida.
And this is a big opportunity, illustrated by the fact that the Dogs of War take the timeout. They've got a short field after this layout D, and a great one from Alex Bullock. These are two teams that really feed off their energy. Two teams that build momentum, and the sidelines rushing the field after a great play aren't two teams in Ultimate that have more active sidelines than UNC and UCF.
It's interesting when you talk to coaches as we look at the college championships. First taking place in 1984 in Massachusetts. There are 40 teams in the tournament, all came to Milwaukee, over 900 athletes participating. And our new champions will replace the old ones of Ohio State in the women and Colorado in the men.
Next year will be right near Chapel Hill in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Campus of North Carolina State.
UNC Ultimate made that announcement recently. East Coast Nationals 2016.
Good selection, by the way.
Tournament directors Troy Revel and Tristan Green are here in Milwaukee learning the ropes.
fake hammer throw, and instead, handling outside was Braley Adams. Adams has 2 assists so far in the game. Adams from Hankin. Got a man wide open. Can he get it? No! Ooh, good scoring opportunity that goes by the wayside, intended for Michael Fairley.
This is the type of play, if UCF makes this catch, it's their night. And Fairley almost came up with that. That disc was coming in at such a difficult angle for him to handle. Bit of a force there from Nethercutt.
Nethercutt so far has not been a factor. And this low scoring start led by Central Florida 2-1. Dangerous right there. Oh.
Flirting with a Callahan.
Which would have been a score for the defense. Instead, Central Florida with the disc. Kyle Reedy.
Oh, was that a foul? Looked like a hand block from UNC's Matt Guccio-Hannes, true freshman. Really close.
And Reedy choosing to operate with the gloves tonight. You ever use gloves?
I never did. I'd say it's about 50-50 right now, and it looks like they wave off the foul call, so no call. You know, it's truly a matter of preference. Some guys use them, some guys don't. I tried them once, but as a thrower, didn't like the feel. But there are a lot of great players that use them. There are some that don't.
It's a very cool night in Milwaukee, in contrast to the afternoon yesterday when the temperatures hovered near 80. Nethercutt trying to go over the top. What a throw.
Vikram Setharaman hauls in the Nethercutt hammer. An important hold right there for UNC. Nethercutt tied with Chris LaRock coming into this game for most assists in the tournament. LaRock had a bunch in the Florida State semifinal, but it didn't go FSU's way against Oregon. And now Nethercutt picks up his first assist in the dark side semifinal.
Well, we mentioned the hammer on a number of occasions. Let's talk ultimate lingo. That's an overhead throw that starts above the shoulders and the disc turns over in the air and flies upside down. It's a good scoring throw.
Especially when teams are doing a good job forcing you one way with good downfield defense. The backside might be open, and guys who have that throw, it's easy to go from thinking flick to thinking hammer. Basically the same grip as the flick. And a throw that's become more common and really tough to defend, especially when it's not all that windy. It's breezy now, but nothing all-encompassing.
You brought this point up earlier, Evan, and I think it's worth mentioning the fact that both of these are emotional teams. They have gotten this fan base on both sides into the game early.
Here we go. Little doesn't have position, and it's defended by the little guy. In this case, the little guy is 5'11" Vikram Setharaman, but next to Little,
that's a size difference.
Setharaman, a really solid player, just a junior. I'm impressed with his ability to just fill a role on this team. He's not a superstar, but he's very steady.
Langdon and Nethercutt in your picture moments ago. That's the key matchup we highlighted at the beginning. And Langdon is giving no quarter so far. Long toss downfield broken up.
Downfield defense has been pretty good by both teams.
It has. Central Florida back with the disc. Here's Little. to Langdon, and now to Michael Fairley. Fairley toward the red zone. It's floating up in the air. Is going to get it.
Foul called. There's certainly contact. That doesn't necessarily mean it was a foul.
Starting with a check.
So Hastings hit him from behind, but I don't think that was a foul.
Yeah, he said no foul, the observer, and that's
Go
a
back
good
to
call.
where you were, guys. Yeah.
I mean, you could see why Adams called it. It wasn't an inexcusable
Where were
call.
you?
He got drilled from behind, but
Okay.
by the point he was
Just count the
hit,
slide, you guys
he
can
really
decide.
didn't have a chance to make a play on the disc.
20 seconds.
So far early in the first half, we have had numerous plays like that.
Hasn't this been fun, though? The
Oh, it has.
aggressiveness from both
It
UCF
has
and
almost the
UNC.
feel of a championship game. I mean, we're not there yet. That's tomorrow, but the excitable type nature of the two teams, the way the plays have been contested, the matchup between the Callahan winner and Langdon.
That was the greatest attempt. Tim McAllister couldn't pull it off on the sidelines.
Central Florida Dogs of War, seeded 7th.
There's a fine line between taking your shots and also being calm and collected with the disc.
A lot of movement here, and off the hands of the Dogs of War.
Hastings laid out, didn't get a piece of the disc, but he did enough to interfere with the reception.
ESPN3 live coverage, men's second semifinal, 4th game of the day. We began all the way back at 1 o'clock Eastern time.
Oh my, that's a very uncharacteristic mistake by Ben Snell.
And a short field in which to work for the offense. A very short field.
Snell and Adams going body to body out there. Oh, another cut.
Took it away. Central Florida says, wait a minute.
Not a tie. It is not a tie.
Yeah, I think Central Florida's arguing that he had possession and then dropped
Hold on,
it.
guys.
He doesn't
guys,
have
guys,
possession
hold on.
until he comes down with the disc.
I need you to calm down.
So unless Langdon was trying to call a strip or a foul, this is UNC's disc, no question about it. Mitch Dengler,
All right, guys, wait.
in charge of all the observers, comes in. As he lost it on the way down, by rule, that's still UNC's disc.
Hold on, violation.
Boy, I really like this Langdon-Nethercutt matchup, don't you?
It's fun.
A lot of conversation going on between
Right,
both.
because you stalled it before he picked it up. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's all right, guys. Coming to 1. Let's go.
Microphones are magical things.
Oh, this is great. This is the key matchup, and Langdon, like I said, not giving any space out there. Nor should he. Big game. Winner gets to the finals to face Oregon.
Snell through the contact there. Might have been a foul on Adams.
Awful close to the ground, too.
If Setharaman catches it, the play continues. If he didn't catch it, then it goes back and they decide whether it's a foul. Definitely looked like a foul on the throw. And it will go back to Snell as they ruled Setharaman did not catch the disc when it was up.
How many contested plays have we had already in the first half?
You know, when the stakes rise, things can get a little chippy.
Yes, sir. Definitely the atmosphere we have here in a 2-2 game. First half.
Taking another shot.
Caught! What a catch. That's Nick McLeod of the dark side, and North Carolina leads.
McLeod, just another cog in the dark side machine, just a sophomore. Grew up in Durham, went to college in Chapel Hill. And this is a huge grab over Austin Mercadante. You know, it's plays like that why Jonathan Nethercutt won the Callahan. You know, it's not purely an individual award because sure, he has all these great throws, but without Snell and McAllister and Zuraw and Warschauer and Archer, etc. They just be impressive, majestic throws that fell incomplete.
Yeah, and tonight John Nethercutt has had to work very hard. Because he has a dog of war defending him in Jeremy Langdon. Still moments ago, the assist puts North Carolina up 3-2.
Nethercutt on the sidelines for this defensive point. Then Snell, Jimmy Zuraw, Tim McAllister, J.D. Hastings, Aaron Warschauer, McLeod, who just scored, out there as well, along with Norman Archer.
Good spirit of the game there as we had a knockdown. No 8 count required, and yet here comes the blue card.
That's a preemptive, let's not have any retribution.
Sure.
You know, Mitch Dengler, I think if this was in pool play, I don't think we'd see the TMF there. But under the lights, national TV audience, everybody focused on this game. You want to nip that in the bud before it starts.
Well, you mentioned the chippiness, too. I mean, the nature of this game has been that way so
oh,
far.
My, Stuart Little just let that one slip through his hands.
It's going to give North Carolina a shot here. An opportunity to increase the lead to 2. And there it is. North Carolina takes full advantage in this national semifinal off the turnover and now leads 4-2. Number 2, Norman Archer, after the turnover, converting for North Carolina. You can see him position himself in the end zone there.
If you're Stuart Little, you got to put that one behind you really fast. An inexplicable drop. I'm sure he can't explain it. And now we're going to see sort of the counter punch. UNC has thrown a little haymaker. UCF's going to respond, but the deep game's been nullified a little bit. You know, UNC has had some pretty good defense on a couple deep shots.
North Carolina has public address announcer Steve Dunn has informed us has just picked up a violation, team misconduct.
Yeah, during the point, the TMF was awarded. You have 2 warnings, and the third one, a key yardage penalty. The craziest third TMF I've seen was late in that Pitt, Texas game to decide Pool A on, that was Saturday. It's hard to remember what day it is right now, but
well, you covered a lot of games here. So
Saturday afternoon, Pitt scored the tying goal to make it 12-12. And sort of on the ensuing reaction, Texas was charged with a TMF. It was Tufts' third. So Texas had to begin the point from the reverse brick, basically deep in its own end zone.
I remember saying it.
Although Texas, after a turnover, got the disc back and won the game.
A little earlier in the first half, Central Florida had a 2-1 lead, a short field and a timeout. Failed to convert. North Carolina's come back with 3 consecutive scores.
Great point. Now Nethercutt back out there defensively with Zuraw, Hastings, McAllister, Snell to pull, Archer and McLeod.
And here we go with the pull. Central Florida could use an answer. Headed for Terry Murphy. It's still up in the air. Murphy can't get to it.
Great D from Zurov.
Oh, wait a minute.
This looked clean when I saw it the first time.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just a good defensive play. But you know what? Every potential scoring play seems to be challenged here.
Okay, it is not a foul. We start check. Guys, sit. Come back here. Come back here. Come back here, guys. To the point of the.
I love the way they shake hands, but I'll tell you what, nobody's giving anybody any breaks out here tonight.
20 seconds.
That was an impressive D from Zurov because Murphy had a step or two on him when that throw was released.
He
And
did.
Murphy's not slow.
Nope. So it remains 4-2, and now Darkside will have the disc.
Start with a split stack. 3 handlers, 2 guys on each side of the field. Center it to Hastings.
This has been a long first half, and we've had a lot of stoppages. Tim McAllister trying to get underneath. Got it. Got a man ahead of him to score. And he led him too far. Oh, great scoring opportunity just past Ben Snell.
McAllister wants that one back. He made a great catch, a remarkable read on that cross-field 60-yard backhand. And he had Snell, but you saw the defender trailing Zachary Marks. It was Marks' hustle and not giving in that forced McAllister to throw that further than he wanted. I'm curious, Jim, whether UCF is going to try to holster it a little bit and work some of the unders, but that's really not their style. You know, it's like asking a fast break basketball team to play in the half court because they're turning it over too much. You know, trying to run fast breaks.
Good comparison.
Little thought about it there, but thought better of it.
Been a while since Central Florida has scored. Still handling on their end of the zone. Now Little. Looks deep and instead gives it off to Zachary Marks. And here we go, but this one has got way too much air underneath it. Intended for Michael Fairley.
I understand what UCF wants to do. That's how I loved playing as well back in my college days.
However,
he wasn't open. He had 2 guys on him that both had better angles of the disc, and it wasn't a very good throw anyway.
in a game where there is this type of chippiness, is there this enticement to try to go long, score big, try to get back into a momentum position?
It's an energizing play when you connect.
Sure.
And, you know, against Pittsburgh, UCF connected relentlessly. It was very similar to their win over Carleton 2 years ago in semifinals. That was in Madison, so not all that far from here. In that game with Freistatter and Mike Ogren and Mike Hickson, they just connected with everything. And I thought Carleton was the favorite going into that semifinal. Looking back on it, UCF just blew the doors off him. It was the most impressive performance of the weekend, but they couldn't duplicate it in their next game. They played Pitt in the finals, and Pitt was in control. Can they duplicate their performance from earlier today against Pitt, against UNC? That's the question.
Sure. Have a stoppage in play, and with that, let's visit the spirit of the game. Ultimate has traditionally relied upon the spirit of sportsmanship. That places the responsibility for fair play on the player. Highly competitive play is encouraged, but never at the expense of mutual respect among competitors, adherence to the agreed upon rules of the game, or the basic joy of play. That's the USA Ultimate Rules of Ultimate 11th edition. What we're seeing tonight, even with a little bit of chippiness, is plenty of spirit, plenty of good sportsmanship, but nonetheless, with the stakes being large, as you mentioned, I mean, nobody is giving anybody any edge here.
Oh, would you expect them to?
No, and I think we're going to have more stoppages in play as we go along.
Also have a little more rain. The precipitation has resumed.
Yep. Dark side with the disc. Jonathan Nethercutt being shadowed again. Not this time, though, by Langdon. They're giving him a rest, and Alex Bullock is drawing that assignment as we hold up play. And one of the UCF men down to the turf.
That's Langdon.
And I think Langdon's pointing at Ben Snell. No, it wasn't Snell. I'm sorry. It was
Hastings.
Yep. And right after we read the sportsmanship
Guys,
edict here.
done talking. Chill it out. Done talking. Saying three. Saying three.
Contested foul. I think if the referees had seen it, it might have been a TMF. Oh my.
Great layout by Nethercutt, but cannot convert to Norman Archer. Now that's happened twice for Jonathan Nethercutt on the overthrow.
It was a deflected deep shot that Nethercutt valiantly laid out for.
What do you read into Nethercutt's 5th turnover of the first half?
He's trying to be the hero. Oftentimes he's been, he still probably will be. His team's up 4-2. I don't think he's made many bad decisions, maybe one or two. UNC's defense has enabled him, and well, Snell gets a piece of it. If he caught it, he might have had a Callahan, but he tipped it, and Little came up with a deflection.
Now as the rain starts to fall, and it's a pretty hard rain at that.
Thank goodness we don't have a hard cap in this game.
Yeah.
With the number of stoppages and the way the defense has clamped down.
Be the first one to 7 wins, right?
I think we'd probably get a little deeper than that, but you got my point. And this time, was that Warshower? No, that was Archer.
So North Carolina's going to have a short field off this fine defensive play. In this game now, Alex Bullock has 5 turnovers. And North Carolina, its largest lead at 5-2. J.D. Hastings, number 3 in the middle of your picture. And Nethercutt, who throws as well as to anybody. Lighting a streaking Hastings.
And a tough guy to stop. You can see when that throw went up in the air, Zachary Marks knew immediately he was beat. Hastings taking extra care to secure the wet disc.
Jonathan Nethercutt, 24, with his 3rd assist of the night. Approaching 40 assists for the tournament.
You know, people know Nethercutt as Nut. And they know him for what he's done on the field. He's really one of the great statesmen of the college game, the club game. He's done a lot of youth coaching, running clinics, and you know, he's competitive. He wants to win. He'll hold his own on the field in terms of making calls, but you know, you talk to a lot of players and they'll tell you he's a very fair guy on the field, fair and friendly.
By the graphic, lots of turnovers here in the first half. You can't contribute most of those to the weather because rain has just entered the picture so far. But perhaps because there is much on the line and the play has been physical.
I don't think we've seen our last turnover tonight.
Oh, no, sir. Perhaps that's the reason for the turns here in the first half as the rain starts to pick up, and it is coming down very hard. Off the pull. Central Florida with the disc. Jeremy Langdon Up to midfield. And Kyle Reedy. Now Langdon trying to get loose. Let's see if in this weather the disc becomes more difficult to maintain control of.
Well, it certainly will, and I admire UCF's patience on this point.
You wind up shortening your game a little bit because of the rain.
Wow. No, it's just a bad throw by Langdon. He just missed the target. He had an open lane. Jim, UCF's in trouble right now. I think that's a foul on the mark.
Yep. Carolina has scored 4 in a row in this game.
And you said about 10 minutes ago, it's been a long time since UCF has scored.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I don't know. I do not know. I can't tell you.
That's Ben Snell handling number 77.
Pick downfield, not impacting the throw to Archer.
If you ask me, I couldn't tell still if it's contested, I go back then.
Maybe it did impact the throw to Archer.
Go back.
Does there come a point where the observers step in and say, look, we're getting a little bit too fine with these calls?
Okay.
even though the spirit of the game is really reflected in the players' positions. I think if the calls are egregious and excessive, they would issue a TMF. But if it's just a hard competitive game and there happens to be a lot of whistles,
so be it.
Yeah. Teams aren't doing anything wrong by calling picks if they're picks.
Tim McAllister was in the area, could not get to it. So it remains 5-2 in favor of North Carolina. Central Florida not only committing turnovers, but not even putting itself in position to score here lately, which is giving Darkside a great opportunity to launch a huge first half.
Freshman Quan. He is so quick and springy.
Snell with the hammer. They score. Nick McLeod and North Carolina threatening to run away with this, up 6-2.
Well, this began with Quan making a leaping grab. The defender Mercadante was closing in to Snell. Look to the right, not there, sees the opening, lets it fly. 6-2 UNC. That's 15 yards in the No Fun League.
Possibly a fine too, but
I enjoyed that.
Actually, I did too. Nick McLeod has scored twice tonight. 5-0 run for the dark side. So Darkside with its biggest lead of the night.
That's 4 breaks in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say this for sure, but I don't think UCF has been broken 4 times in a row this weekend.
I'm sure you're right.
And they called a TMF on UNC. It was their 3rd. So instead of a pull on this next point, Central Florida will start the opposite brick mark.
Alex Bullock will handle the disc to Jeremy Langdon. Scoring opportunity here, and a big one at that.
To be honest, I'm not sure if that was the TMF for the celebration, but I'm not sure what else it could have been.
Yeah. And if it is, it cost them a goal, because Brawley Adams just broke the scoring streak of North Carolina after a run of 5 straight goals.
Aggressive bid there from Hastings into the back of Adams. He bursted up the line, and Hastings was beat.
Well, we may have to revisit TMFs and why they're called, because I have a feeling McLeod on the goal was assessed the TMF for the gesture with the
Really not sure. So it might have been language from anyone.
Perhaps we can find out. Let me ask you this, by the way, what McLeod did, should it have warranted a TMF?
I don't
Spirit
know.
of the rule.
I don't know. I don't think he was taunting his opponent there. You know, he wasn't doing it toward his opponent. Again, in the NFL, that's using a prop. But we're not the NFL. I think that's pretty creative. Not Michaela Meister creative, but still.
Well, we see an observer in the back, and I was trying to observe the observer and see if there were some gestures for the TMF at that point. We couldn't pick it up, though. Either way, Central Florida got the disc, the short field, and the goal.
What do you think? You think that should have been a TMF?
Yeah.
The celebration?
I do. I do. Because you talk about the spirit of the game and good sportsmanship, and
that's fair.
I don't believe that was. Dark side on the attack, trying to get that goal back.
Yet at the same time, you acknowledge being entertained by it.
I know. Well, you know, I'm just a load of contradictions here.
Aren't we all? Pick call downfield, nullify that goal, just coming back. You know, if North Carolina can hold serve on its next 2 0 points, they'll at worst take half 8-4, and that'll be a pretty powerful position to be.
Pretty difficult, if not improbable, to try to come back in a game where you're down by that many goals.
Especially when you think of UNC will receive to start the second half, too.
Well, what a wonderful give and go. And on the go end is Justin Moore. Well, one thing about North Carolina, I mean, they're a spirited gang. And I suppose you could keep that TMF card handy for most of the game.
If you were thinking of asking Justin Moore for dance lessons, I think you should go elsewhere. I mean, don't quit your day job, Justin.
Well, Nathan Kwan was over to help him out. 7-3 now, North Carolina. Just a goal away from the break. And for Central Florida, minus the short field and the gift off the third TMF, there has been little on offense generated here in the latter part of the first half. So how do the Dogs of War find themselves back in this?
They need to collectively take a deep breath and try to calmly work it down the field. And I think you got to give UNC a ton of credit for the defense that they've been playing. They knocked away a few deep shots. That Jimmy Zurad D really forced UCF to change the way they were playing. And the junk has interrupted what UCF has wanted to do off the pull. UNC's been physical, and they've been forcing mistakes and feeding off them.
Speaking of, another turnover, another short field for North Carolina. Nethercutt, excuse me, held up by Langdon. Those two have been at each other most of the night.
call contact, which, okay, and you need to reset your stall. Okay. No, and then it got to.
That's because he walked away.
Yeah, and said foul. We're gonna be at stalling 4. You see the problem? Okay. I know. Yeah.
I see the problem, he said, not so subtly pointing at Jeremy Langdon.
That matchup's a treasure tonight, don't you think?
That's half.
Diving
Holy cow.
catch and a score. Nathan Kwan, as UCF finds itself in a 5-goal deficit.
Position they're not used to.
Leading at halftime in every match prior to this one. Oh, you're right, Nathan Kwan is quick.
The Callahan winner, Jonathan Nethercutt, leading the way.
And he throws it where no defender can get to it.
He's the best thrower in college ultimate this year.
Yep.
First half goals, 8 per game, obviously. They took half in every single game they played until tonight. I'm going to chat with Andrew Roca in a minute. Going to be very interesting to hear his perspective. I'm sure he's frustrated. The question is, does he still believe?
Coach Roca has just joined us from Central Florida. Coach, we just showed the numbers, how your team has performed in the first half prior to this game tonight. Tonight you've been limited to 3 scores. What's been the biggest difference?
I think the intensity on both sides. It seems we've abandoned a little bit of our game plan for this game, but I think it's going to take us a little bit more patience and diligence to get through that.
You abandoned the game plan because of North Carolina's defense?
I think it's a mutual. I think it's a good amount of North Carolina's defense and probably even a better amount of our own stubbornness.
We've seen you get 5 breaks and a half against really great teams. Crunch time, Andrew. How do you do it in the second half?
The way we're going to do it is going to be by just relaxing a lot on offense and on defense, trying to put them in some uncomfortable situations. So we're probably going to be working a lot on that in this half about just trying to reassess our game plan.
Do you still believe?
Absolutely.
Andrew, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Head coach Andrew Roca of the Dogs of War. We now find themselves in quite a dog fight. Trailing 8-3 at halftime in the final game of our 4 games today. UCF had outscored opponents by 22 until tonight. Right now, it's Nethercutt and North Carolina. Let's take you through the scoring summary of the first half. Just 3 goals for Central Florida. Little, Langdon, and Adams. Adams also assisting on 2 goals for North Carolina, spreading out the wealth. 7 different players have scored. And Jonathan Nethercutt, the Callahan Award winner, has 4 first half assists. Let's go to the highlights. Central Florida at one point in this game had a 2-1 lead. However, Nethercutt had just on the dime throws.
That was his first assist to Seth Araman. One of 2 hammers that UNC scored on. Snell also picked up an assist on the hammer. Just great lateral disc movement. UCF didn't really get the stall count beyond 3 or 4 for most of the half. Big catch by McLeod with the defender Mercadante nearby. Kwan came up with a catch, and here comes Snell's hammer. Big number 77. Might be one of the most underrated players in the country, and he gets a lot of credit, but that's how good he actually is. This is Justin Moore. And the shot up the line. Moore gave us a little dance. And then to take half, nether cut to the shortest guy on the field, Nathan Kwan. I can't wait to see how this guy grows as a player. He may not grow height-wise, but as a player, he is going to be a nightmare to guard as he gets older.
North Carolina, despite the lead, has 3 technicals in the game, 2 for language, 1 for sideline. I do not believe, to follow your point, that Mr. McLeod, for dressing up the disc, was assessed a technical earlier on a goal in the first half. We'll continue with our coverage live on E3 tonight from Eline Park in Milwaukee. Earlier today in the women's bracket semifinals, Oregon beat UBC and Stanford defeated Carleton. That means tomorrow a couple of longtime Northwest rivals will play, Oregon and Stanford. In the men earlier tonight, Oregon was a 15-12 winner and will face the winner of our game between Central Florida and North Carolina. Pete Donardis joins us from down on the floor. It was a 2-1 game, Coach, at one point in favor of Central Florida. Dogs of War called a timeout, set up a score on the short field, did not score, and you took over on a 5-0 run after that. What was the big difference?
Well, I think, our guys still aren't totally calmed down on offense, but our D pressure's been relentless all weekend, and that's been a huge difference. And when our offense cleans it up, we go on these huge runs. So it's just the story of the weekend so far.
Mike, I know you have a ton of confidence in your team, but did you think you'd be able to contain their deep game this much?
Yeah, it was in the game plan all along. We know what they want, and we need to limit it, and we're executing the game plan properly. So we're limiting their deep shots and making them grind, and they're, it's paid off with a couple easy drops.
You said to me yesterday that, yeah, you guys may have not had the regular season that teams expected you to have, but Jonathan Nethercutt still won the Callahan, and now you're a game and a half away from a national title. What would that mean for you?
It's special enough that not won the award because he's such a consummate student of the game, leader of our community, and he's a great player and a great person. That means a lot to me that he won. For the team, and a national championship would just be a cherry on top of all of that. Clearly that's our goal, and we want to do that, but having Nut win that award was a testament to our program and how far we've come in such a short time.
You staying dry down there, Mike?
Can you tell? It looks great, huh? Yeah, I'm okay though. It's not that bad.
Mike, any concern about the 3 technicals assessed in the first half?
Well, I got 2 of them, so I need to clean up my act. But the rest of it, it's chippy out there, right? It's the semis and nationals. Things are going to get a little hairy sometimes, but we talked to our guys at half, and hopefully both teams clean it up and give a better show. After the game, I'd love to ask you what you said, but I can't ask you right now, so we'll wrap up this interview pretty quick. Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep, take care, guys.
Weren't you curious about what he said?
Let's find him at the end of the game.
We will.
Especially if he wins. Second half upon our return. Right now, Carolina in command. With the voice of Ultimate, Evan Lepler, Jim Barber, back here in Milwaukee, ready to start the second half. All first half numbers favoring North Carolina in the red zone. 4 of 8, 50%. Central Florida just 1 of 4. The long hucks of 30 yards or better. Carolina 4 of 9. Central Florida just 1 of 6. And the breaks, that's the big difference. North Carolina with 5 of them. Central Florida, zip.
So early this morning, about 13 hours ago, when play started here, nearly 13 hours ago, when the quarterfinals began, Pittsburgh broke UCF on the first point of that game. And then the Dogs of War came alive and broke Pittsburgh, often considered to having the best offense in the country, 5 times and a half. Great energy, they connected on everything, deep shots off the turn. They need to duplicate that first half of their Sunday and their last half of their Sunday if they're gonna have any chance here. I think it's possible, but I think it needs to start quickly.
What kind of adjustments defensively do you think Andrew Roca made at the break for his Dogs of War?
You know what, I think the adjustments for UCF are less physical and more mental. They need to raise their intensity, they need to dial up their focus, and they need to embrace the swagger that they came into this game with. You know, they made a couple early mistakes. We saw Stuart Little had a drop. Jimmy Zuraw's D was huge. I said earlier I thought they should slow it down.
30 seconds.
Screw that.
Yeah. Let's do it quick.
Start playing your game. Live and die with your game. And I think a third technical was just called on Central Florida there. Yeah, that is a flagrant foul.
It's on David Hankin, 44. So off the yardage penalty, advantage to the dark side.
You know, we're at the point now, Jim, any TMF or technical the rest of the way will be a yardage penalty. No more warnings either way.
Here's Nethercutt faking the hammer. Now sends it across, and they continue the possession on the other side.
That was a really hard throw by Nethercutt. He made it look easy. He put so much float on that cross-field hammer.
Snell to Nethercutt. He's close.
Lefty backhand. How about that?
Man, have they had a good game tonight. And on the scoring edge, this time it's Justin Moore. And the lead reaches 6 at 9-3.
You know, a year ago in the semifinals, it was his hucks, hitting Christian Johnson deep over and over again. Justin Moore made a couple nice grabs deep. This year, it's been more of the crafty throws, that hammer over the top, and then the lefty backhand, which has been such an effective throw in Ultimate these past few years. Teams practice this now. They'll go through entire drills just practicing these lefty backhands.
5 assists for Jonathan Nethercutt.
And I missed it. It was Snell hitting Nethercutt with a lefty backhand before Nethercutt hit Moore.
And he now has 40 assists for the tournament. 40. That's sick. Isn't that the common term for it?
And he didn't play in their last pool play game against Oregon. You know, the UNC game plan is interesting because they have a lot of guys who can do things with the disc, but they also do a great job of getting Nutt the disc back to allow him to make the play. You know, he's so comfortable in that role. Nobody else on the team tries to be the hero. Everyone else is so content with giving him the reset.
And if you notice in the first half, he was having trouble getting it back because of Jeremy Langdon's pressure. They sent him deep on a couple of occasions. Then they got him set up nicely on the reset, and the rest has been textbook North Carolina play.
For UCF, it's like they've been hit by a buzzsaw. I mean, this is a team that all season long is you know, live large. There was inadvertent contact there. Not intentional, but Langdon collided with Hastings in the backfield. I don't think there was anything malicious there, just they collided. Both hit the turf pretty good.
Each team being assessed 3 technicals in this game.
That throw is just ugly. I mean, that had no chance.
Well, it's a dispirited group right now. And who would have anticipated this juncture of the game that Central Florida would have 3 goals?
And there's the scuba from Nethercutt. Might be coming back because of a call downfield. Foul downfield. Observer confirmed it's a foul. We've seen the flick huck, we've seen the backhand huck, we've seen the hammer, we've seen the lefty backhand, we just saw the scuba. Here's another flick huck.
And back defending for Central Florida, Terry Murphy.
I think the stall count was rising, and Nethercutt just wanted to get the disc downfield there, even though he didn't have a great matchup or a great angle to a receiver.
And certainly with a 6-goal advantage, you can take as many chances as you'd like at this point. You hit on a couple and you pretty much cemented this as if it hasn't already been cemented. Zachary Marks trying to get loose downfield, but they caught up with him. Hard to believe at one point Central Florida had the disc, had a timeout, and a 2-1 lead. Feels like the tale of two games.
You know, UNC is doing a really good job with their marks. They're forcing middle. They're sort of going straight up to middle, forcing UCF, if they're gonna huck it, to do it over the pack in the middle of the field. It's a very interesting strategy, and it's working well.
Yeah, subsequently, there haven't been very many scoring opportunities.
See, right now they're going backhand, but if the disc goes to the far side of the field, they'll go flick, preventing the hucks to the outside of the field. There's a break, and UCF converts.
Yeah, nice throw by Langdon, too, to get rid of it to Michael Fairley, and finally a Central Florida goal here in the second half.
You don't see teams force middle a lot. It requires so much communication, and it makes the defense downfield that much tougher because you're constantly changing where you expect the disc to go. And the marks have been very active and lengthy, and I don't remember many other breaks of mark in the entire game. That was an impressive throw.
Yeah. And a nice diving grab by Fairley. Jeremy Langdon, this game has a goal and 2 assists. And for Michael Fairley, his first score of the night.
Fairley just a sophomore. Only 7 guys on this UCF team were on the finalists 2 years ago. Raleigh Adams, Jeremy Langdon, Stuart Little, Austin Mercadante, Andrew McKelvey, a couple others. And this looks like an offsides has been called. Interesting, they even give the disc back to Nethercutt to throw it back downfield. Oh, and he hit Stuart Little in the back of the head. I'm sure that wasn't intentional.
No, and in fact, Little put his arms up like what gives, but it was purely.
This is a replay of a meaningless throw back. Oh, God.
Ouch.
Now, if that was intentional, it'd be really freaking impressive.
That's an injury to insult, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you're little, you understand the frustration.
Oh, yeah, it's been a rough night. So Darkside back with the disc. Still in control at 9-4, early second half. Trying to get to the finals to face Oregon. As Eagle knocked off Florida State, got a little revenge for loss earlier on Friday. Snell handling to Nethercutt. Zura to the end zone. And a score, Ben Snell.
And another over-the-top hammer from Lord John Nethercutt. His Callahan video to the music from Game of Thrones, and on a Sunday night when a new episode of Thrones is airing on HBO, Lord Nethercutt doing work on E3.
It's a good name. Look how many times he handled the disc on this scoring possession.
There's no handler like that in Westeros, I guarantee it.
Jeffrey Shapiro back defending for Central Florida, now 6 assists for Nethercutt and 41 in the tournament, 4-1. North Carolina 5 points away from joining Oregon in the championship tomorrow afternoon here in Milwaukee, slated for 3:30 Eastern time.
8 weeks ago today, UNC and North Carolina met early on a Sunday morning at Easterns, and Oregon won in a very close game. That was part of the disappointing UNC regular season, to be honest. Be a very different story tomorrow. Technically, UNC 0-2 against Oregon this year, but you can really throw out yesterday's matchup. Basically an exhibition game for Darkside.
You know what impresses me about Nethercutt? There are many things, but the one thing that stands out is after receiving the game's biggest award earlier in the day, that not that I expected there to be a letdown, but there could be some effects from it. There has been none.
It's a really good point. And that's a hard thing to do. I mean, but 2 years in a row, guys received the Callahan Award and then played really well in the semifinals. And I don't say that because Jimmy Mickle's sitting right behind us here in the booth. I say that because it's true.
When you're ready, go ahead.
And a year has gone by. I've forgotten all the mistakes he made in that game.
Well, good. We don't have enough time to bring him up anyway. 10-4 the score in this game. Central Florida operating with the disc. Trying to find some magic in the second half. And the diving catch by Michael Fairley. And the cross the field hammer throw, and so Central Florida's offense starting to pick up a little bit here, Evan.
So usually when UCF scores, they're rushing the field, the guys are celebrating. Understandably right now, they're pretty somber after a score. All they need is one break to just change the entire mentality. If they could pull stuff and score, and all of a sudden it's 10-6, I don't think UNC is going to get tight, but that is how Central Florida can gain some hope here. You know, there's not the factor of the hard cap, so we got time. We're 12.5 minutes away from soft cap. But if that's not a factor, you know, Carolina needs to get 5 before UCF gets 10. That should be done no problem, but I've seen crazier things happen.
When you played at Wake Forest, what was the biggest deficit you ever saw that, let's say when it came to your team, that you achieved and came back and won? Do you remember?
It's a great question. I remember the ones we lost more than the ones we won.
Did you blow a big lead?
I remember like being up 9-6 and losing 10-9. That hurt. Winona State at Terminus. No reason we should have lost that game. I remember a great game we had against George Washington, being down, I think 9-5 and coming back to win 15-12. So we outscored them 10-3. That was a special win for our program. Paling in comparison, of course, to what Darkside's about to accomplish.
Sure.
Or what UCF would do in comeback fashion. There's the flick huck looking for Warshower.
From Nethercutt, up in the air, got it. He scores. What a play.
How about SportsCenter top 10 for this one? A beautiful full field flick huck, and Warshower with a contested, impressive elevation sky.
Worth several different looks. Let's start with the handler.
Just a gorgeous throw. Warshower had position, and that's what I'm talking about when I refer to reading the disc. Warshower went up to the highest point, the apex of his leap, to snag it with a right paw. Aaron Warshower, a junior, grew up in Chapel Hill. Used every inch of his 6'3" frame to haul that one in.
He's an English and poetry major. That appeared to be poetry in motion moments ago. As the Callahan Award winner and Warschauer team up. And all 70 yards of this field were used on the play, or pretty close to it. So North Carolina closing in on a championship berth. They'll put this one on the floor.
When you're up 11-5, why not the roller pull?
North Carolina going a bit of a zone. Fairley with the disc. He has the 2 Central Florida scores in the second half. And that was too tough to lay out for.
I'm surprised that Fairley didn't throw it deep. And the UNC defense, I don't want to say they've gotten in UCF's head, but they've certainly changed the style that UCF typically would employ.
We just saw Nathan Kwan in our picture, the outstanding freshman. A little disconnect there. So off the turn, Central Florida back on offense, but down by a bunch, 11-5.
UCF needs 2 in a row, and they need it quick to have any chance. It's about as intense the rain has been all night.
Yeah.
Been on and off most of the day. Been really impressed with how all 8 teams, the 4 men's and 4 women's, have handled the conditions. Games have not become too sloppy for the most part.
While traveling was called, not too sure that Central Florida agreed.
From this camera angle, you can see how the
travel,
players
so
are enduring these conditions. They rule no travel. The goal stands. The drenched Dogs of War still down, though, by 5.
But finally, some smiles on their faces. Stuart Little handling.
Before the game, you said, I believe astutely and accurately, that this was the most anticipated game of the day. I mean, these 2 teams have been the most impressive in the men's field consistently from start to finish this weekend. And I think a lot of people, not Oregon, of course,
sure,
look at this as whoever wins is the considerable favorite tomorrow. I agree with that sentiment, but I thought UCF would deliver a much different effort.
If this holds up, it'll be a 3 seed in North Carolina against a 15 seed in Oregon.
2 teams from Pool C. Oregon knocked off Texas this morning. Florida State took down UMass. I thought UMass could win the national title. Jeff Babbitt, probably my favorite player in the tournament. I think he's as good as anybody. UCF took down Pitt. North Carolina dethroning the defending champions, Colorado.
This has been a far more impressive offensive second half for Central Florida, Evan, with 3 second half goals. That matches what they had in the entire first half. The problem has been recording breaks. Headed to Snell. Easily done. Ben Snell with North Carolina's 12th score of the night.
Jimmy Zura played a really big role in this game. I mean, this is a gorgeous throw. They set it up with Warshower. And then over to Gucha-Hannes. Finally, a lefty flick from Zora around the defender, and you can see it in the body language of UCF. They know they've been soundly beaten.
He had a couple of cutters over there that could have caught the disc. Although it certainly was intended for Snell, but it was interesting to see in the same area was Justin Moore.
I wonder if those guys are cold right now. I probably doubt it, considering the emotions of these moments. Ben Snell grew up in Raleigh. Currently a graduate student, hoping to be a teacher. And North Carolina versus Colorado in the finals last year would have been a very different game if Ben Snell was healthy.
We will talk with Mike DeNardis and Jonathan Nethercutt, hopefully, if this holds up. Pretty good pull from North Carolina. Langdon put a move on. Can he get to it? No. Jimmy Zura, who has made a couple of good defensive plays, back defending.
He's been so super solid. You know, there he hovered that fine line between being physical and not fouling. He did just enough to get in Langdon's way. Langdon misread the disc. It was not a great throw. And UNC has the disc again.
And to echo a point you mentioned earlier, the defense of North Carolina has been a huge difference in this game.
It's been the biggest difference, really. You know, unlike that play, UCF really hasn't done much to thwart UNC. That's a heck of a play right there by Brawley Adams, a play that he made throughout the weekend here in Milwaukee. I mean, that is sensational.
Yeah.
If this is 12-11 right now instead of 12-6, that might be the play of the day.
Sure. Stuart Little gives it back to Langdon. Central Florida at one point had a 2-1 lead, hardly substantial, but did have an advantage. And after that, North Carolina went on a 5-0 run and really put this one out of reach, although Michael Fairley now has 3 second-half goals.
You asked the question of Mike DeNardis at halftime astutely. You know, UCF was up 2-1. They called a timeout, looking to punch it in, go up 3-1. What changed? And he talked about the defensive pressure, just playing their game. Let's see if UCF can try to make one last push here. I mean, this is a team that can run off 3-4 in a row.
And Michael Fairley has been their only offensive threat.
I like those pink and black hats. UCF's been wearing them all tournament long.
Yeah.
They
Kind
came
of
in
a
the
fashion
tournament
statement,
player
isn't it?
pack, right? Some of Discraft's finest.
Tomorrow it's Oregon Day in the city of Milwaukee.
We'll see. Stanford and UNC might have something to say about that.
Well, I guess I mean in terms of participating. Women will be in the 1 o'clock finals. The men in the 3:30 championship game. Langdon and Fairley, by the way, have combined on all 3 goals in the second half. So give Jeremy Langdon a lot of credit on the offensive end. This is intended for Warshauer. Can he get to it? On the run, no sir.
Yeah, when that disc left Nutt's hand, I didn't think there was any chance Warshauer would be able to get there. Got closer than I thought he would.
North Carolina in the red zone, almost comparable numbers to the first half, converting 8 times when they've been into the red zone today.
That's Nethercutt playing the deep in their junkie defense off the turn. And he had that D lined up the whole way. Huge difference in the game. You talked about it right at the start of the second half has been his team's conversion rates in the red zone. Looking for the hammer. He wants more. Wow.
Can't get it. Kyle Lockwood drew the defensive assignment.
You know how hard of a catch that is? The wet disc, the hammer coming in at that speed. I don't care that he's wearing gloves. Not on balance.
And you got to time your jump.
I mean, that was spectacular, even though it didn't work out.
Broken up, short field for North Carolina.
Too easy.
Yep.
Soft cap horn went on during that point. Add 2 to the highest team score. This is a game to 15.
Uchahanis gets in the scoring column. Back to a 6-goal lead at 13-7.
So in the back of my mind, Jim, I'm thinking about North Carolina and Oregon. After this replay, elaborate. Skying in Ben Maxon. I mean, this is the red zone patience and the conversion. That was easy.
Do you think Oregon can beat North Carolina?
If they play their best game, yeah, I do. And they did it during the season. They thrashed them yesterday, even though it didn't really matter too much for North Carolina. I think that Oregon probably has more to gain from that game. Even though, you know, this could be the end of North Carolina's great run. Now the triangle area, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, is becoming one of the burgeoning youth powerhouses in America. So they're going to replenish. They are not going to rebuild, they're going to reload. But with a current core that they've got, they've accomplished a lot, as has Oregon. I mean, 4 straight trips to the semis for Ego. They finally have gotten over the hump, as Jay Janin said. But for Dylan Freechild, a guy who has struggled in a lot of big games in the spotlight, he's been arguably the best player in the sport for 3-4 years. So dynamic, so aggressive, so fun to watch, and so polarizing. I think Jonathan Nethercutt is going to be remembered as a winner regardless. I think unfairly, Dylan Freechild, if he doesn't win tomorrow, might not be remembered as fondly as he deserves to be. And a win tomorrow completely erases that conversation.
He is going to get his opportunity.
If he's got a Callahan Award, 4 semifinals, and a championship in his 5 years, I mean, all of a sudden that elevates him in the hierarchy of great college careers we've seen in this sport. It changes the legacy entirely. That's a point that they made on UltiWorld last week.
Central Florida had to start the possession deep in its own territory due to a technical that was assessed. And off the turnover, here comes Nethercutt. Just 2 goals away.
reality is, guys like Nethercutt and Freechild, hopefully they stay healthy and their ultimate careers are just beginning. I mean, Nethercutt has been a cornerstone of Ring of Fire and Raleigh the last couple of years. I'll never forget watching Portland's Rhino knock off Seattle Sockeye in the pre-quarters round of 16 at Club Nationals this year. One of the more shocking results I've ever seen in an ultimate tournament.
I bet it was. Intended for Stuart Little. And he got it.
It's sort of like a begrudging score at this point, isn't it? I mean, look at his body language. He's had such a great season. A junior captain. I've seen his family's here. They've been supporting him on the sideline every single game. He is going to be in the Callahan conversation next year.
And it's got to be disheartening because,
I mean, it's too soon to have that conversation, but we're going to have it anyway.
Sure.
Jeff Babbitt in the conversation next year for Callahan.
By the way, Little's 22nd goal this weekend.
Little will be in the conversation. If Oregon's Connor Matthews can take that next step. I'm sure I'm forgetting some very worthy names.
By the way, are these friends of yours, Evan?
These folks? I mean, they're all friends of mine.
I believe the cold and rain is starting to have its effect. We've been mentioning some of the best players in USA Ultimate, and you have put together the list of the finest, the best of the best.
This is my all-universe team from College Nationals 2015. If I could pick 7 for a universe point, Babbitt, Bennett, Cunningham, Earls, Freechild, LaRocque, and Nethercutt. I feel terrible about leaving off Max Thorne. I feel terrible about leaving off Stanley Peterson. A few other names that probably could be on there. Feel free to argue with me on Twitter if you'd like, if you think I'm crazy. But I would go to battle with that top 7.
North Carolina recently a little sloppy with the disc.
Any list like that is sure to start some arguments.
Oh,
and hey, they're fun.
And that's a terrific 7.
And by the way, I came up with that before I knew Nethercutt won the Callahan.
Sure you did. Little give and go. Well done. Central Florida says, hey, we're not done yet.
It's the closest they've been in the second half.
Let's not start talking championship, guys. Not yet, anyway.
It was 8-3. And then North Carolina went up 9-3 to start the second half. Basically been trading points ever since. So this is the first time that UCF has been back within 4. Closest it's been since 7-3.
Well, in the second half, 6 scores by Central Florida compared to just 3 in the first.
It's been a much more even half, but North Carolina has been very okay with that.
Yeah, can trade goals, certainly. Andrew McKelvey on the scoring end there.
Got to give a shout out. I think these are the Notre Dame guys in front of us who have been the most boisterous fans. Now, the Notre Dame guys weren't in the tournament, but they were out supporting the Notre Dame ladies.
Yep.
That's the UNC crew. This is the crew I'm talking about. See some Notre Dame gear in there. They have been singing and chanting and dancing in unintelligible words for basically 72 hours straight now. I love it.
Well, you mentioned how balanced the scoring has been in the second half after North Carolina blew out to that 8-3 first half lead. It certainly will be the determining factor, barring anything improbable happening here in the waning moments.
I just remembered one other great comeback I had, which is probably too late to brag a little bit, but
it's okay.
We were down 14-10, game to 15, win by 2. I remember shaking the hands of the handler I was guarding when he threw deep. I thought they got the winning score. It was against Mary Washington, and I believe Hellfish Bonanza in Harrisonburg, Virginia, JMU. We ended up coming back and winning 18-16. I played all 34 points in that game.
Wow.
It was a great win for Wake Forest. I was, I think I was a sophomore, 2005.
So you shook his hands because you thought it was over,
Yeah,
right?
I shook his hands, thought they had beat us 15-10. I said, good game, congrats, and well, we hadn't won, we hadn't lost yet. You never know. Travel was called here.
Was that like the New York Mets posting congratulations, Boston Red Sox world champions, 1986, a little prematurely?
Now that stings.
Sorry. I didn't think you remember. Dark side. Trying to notch its 14th goal. That was easy. Ben Snell. Not going to stop that play. That is from point blank range. Ben Snell now 3 goals, 2 assists tonight, Evan.
You know, one of the things about UNC's pending victory tonight is it doesn't feel like Ben Snell has had to expend that much energy. You know, and they didn't play but one real game yesterday. They didn't have a pre-quarter. They advanced straight into the quarterfinals. And in this game, I mean, he's been out there a lot of deep points, but UCF has not tested him deep, wisely, I might add. I mean, he's been working hard, don't get me wrong. I'm sure he'll enjoy lying down tonight, but doesn't it feel like UNC's gonna have a good amount of fuel in the tank for tomorrow?
Should. And they'll get a chance at 3:30 in the afternoon to play for the biggest prize in USA Ultimate College Championships, following the women in the matchup of Oregon and Stanford. That's a good Final Four.
So many other North Carolina schools have won national titles. UNC Wilmington, ECU, NC State, but not UNC. Tomorrow they'll be the favorites.
Running a long way is Alex Bullock. Instead, Ben Snell defending, and the disc is out of play. Turnover deep in their own zone. North Carolina's lost a bit of its focus. So Bullock on the pickup and a chance to notch goal number 10.
Oh, my
2 men.
goodness gracious. Well, that's the story of the day for UCF.
On the other end, Snell trying to jump up for this one. Pushed a little bit.
Yeah, he certainly pushed off. I don't think I've ever seen 2 great players D each other up like we just saw in the end zone UCF was attacking.
Yep.
I am mind boggled.
Little give and go with Stuart Little. There's a man wide open. And a score. That was a bullet, and Michael Fairley, who's had an outstanding second half, has his 4th goal of the game and all 4 in the second half. Almost took his head off.
I wish we had another cut mic here to know exactly what he said.
you didn't catch that.
It's been a frustrating night for the Dogs of War. Great season, though. I mean, they come in as the 7th seed. They were in a pool that many thought was winnable. They played a great game against Texas A&M. It was really impressive. And against Minnesota, too, on the showcase field, a game for the pool. They had to win it, otherwise they would have been in pre-quarters. And UCF really efficiently took care of business.
Where's our radar gun when we need it?
And he zipped that in there.
You know, it's a little concession because Central Florida is not going to win this game, but they really have had a decent second half.
Yeah, they've made the score look respectable when it could have, you know, 15-6 would have, in the record books, looked very different from 15-10 or 15-11, or who knows. This is game point to advance to the championship, though, for Darkside.
Nethercutt up to Warschauer. Now they'll get in position on offense. Warschauer again. Trying to close the deal.
I think that was a foul.
And Langdon kind of fires it back at Nethercutt.
There's no contester. Okay. Anytime, Mauricio.
Yeesh. He called it travel.
Okay. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, either way, it's the same. I mean,
Yeah. It's a great point.
4. I heard the last one you said 4. 5.
Let's not argue about 1 second now, fellas.
Well, Langdon's
3-2-1, guys, loud. How's it going? Just wanted to see you guys.
not quitting out there. Not that you anticipated he would. Nethercutt trying to finish the deal here. To Snell. Terrific grab.
Yeah, Jimmy Zura. I mean, along with Nethercutt and Snell, Zura has been the 3rd most important guy for UNC. And he had some shaky performances earlier this weekend. I mean, he had a case of the drops in a couple of Carolina's games. It doesn't mean he wasn't effective, but just some uncharacteristic plays from a guy of his caliber. He juggled it there, but in this semifinal game, he's played flawless.
Let's see if North Carolina can close it out.
Weak side defender coming. Good help defense there by UCF's Alex Bullock.
Well, if anything, a score right here would make it pretty interesting, but Central Florida turnover and North Carolina a short field to finish it.
That'll do it.
Game over.
Second straight year that UNC is in the Final 2. Last year they were the underdogs and they struggled on Sunday against Colorado. Different role this year. UNC is the favorite heading into tomorrow in pursuit of their first national title. I think they're fine with that role. I think Oregon is fine being the underdog, and it's one heck of a heavyweight battle coming up tomorrow afternoon.
And this was the finish to this national semifinal tonight. Aaron Warschauer in position, throws it up in the air and said, let's go, fellas, and celebrate. 15-10 our final score.
Last year, Jimmy Mickle became the first Callahan Award winner, I believe, since Josh Zipperstein with Brown. I beg your pardon, Tim Garrett with Florida did it too. They did it back-to-back years, 05 and 06, winning the Callahan and winning the national title. Didn't Dan Heyman do it too? I might have forgot Dan Heyman for Wisconsin. Nevertheless, Jonathan Nethercutt could join that exclusive club tomorrow as a Callahan winner and a national champion. That's something to watch as well.
We'll come back and put a close on this game tonight as the men's bracket and the women's bracket set for championship action tomorrow afternoon. The 2015 USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by Discraft Ultrastar, the official disc of USA Ultimate. Ask your retailer for Discraft Ultrastar. The Triple Crown Tour, the sport of Ultimate's premier competitive experience. And by USA Ultimate, the national governing body for the sport of Ultimate in the United States. For more information or to find out where to play Ultimate in your area, visit usaultimate.org. Okay, we're set for the men's championship. And the underdog, number 15 seeded Oregon against number 3 North Carolina tomorrow afternoon, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, and 12:30 on the coast. Just moments ago, Mike DeNardis, the head coach, and Jonathan Nethercutt, the Callahan winner, went over to slap hands with the Carolina fans here in attendance. Now both of them are making their way to our broadcast position, and we'll start with the head coach first. Mike, congratulations on reaching the finals. And let's speak to the overall view of this game and what moved you the most about your team.
Well, we talked about in the first half, relentless defense, that we finished the job, but we could have been way cleaner on offense. I told the guys after the game, you know, it's a great victory, but it's not a perfect victory, and that's what we strive for. So we got work to do still.
Obviously, Jonathan Nethercutt and Ben Snell were impactful, but I thought Jimmy Zura gave you an incredible lift tonight. What do you think of his performance?
He's great. I mean, Jimmy's been an unsung hero for us for a couple of years. I mean, a lot of people don't even realize it, but he's on the national team, along with Tim McAllister. And they're just fantastic players, and sometimes they're overshadowed, but, you know, Jimmy's always brought an added piece that we need because you can't rely on 2 or 3 players to drive your offense. So he's always that utility guy that's there when we need him. Him and Justin Moore, too.
Been a great Sunday for you. Nutt won the Callahan. You take care of business tonight. To make this the perfect dream weekend, you got to beat Oregon tomorrow. What are your thoughts on matching up with Ego?
Yeah, I mean, I think we didn't test them in the first game because we were resting our starters, but I think we have the legs. They have a great reset system. They're fast, they're accurate, and we just have to challenge them defensively with all of our looks and continue to press forward on offense.
I know you're not just going to throw one guy at Dylan Freechild. Can you tell us who you expect to guard him with 2 or 3 or 4 guys will get shots at him?
Kitchen sink's coming at him. It's not going to be 1, 2 guys, that's for sure.
All right, thank you, Mike. Go get dry.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see Carolina and Coach DeNardis tomorrow. And, well, this is the Discraft Ultrastar play of the game. A throw on a dime here to Warshauer for the score from your Callahan winner and a man with 42 tournament assists, Jonathan Nethercutt.
Setting up to be a storybook Sunday and Monday here in Milwaukee. That was a heck of a play by Warshauer, but all season long, Nethercutt gives his guys chances to make plays in the air. He's got some great targets.
You got to tell us about that throw. I mean, that was gorgeous.
Which one? There was a lot of throws in that game.
The one to Warshauer we just showed our national audience.
Okay.
Down the near sideline, up the flick, high up in the air that he went up and got.
Well, I mean, it's just a straight called play. Aaron Warshauer's a great deep cutter. He's been great for us all year, and they've been playing him mostly ISO up until that point. They hadn't been helping off the back a ton, and the mark was just a little bit flat and allowed me to, just get a flick down the sideline. And if you put it up about, 9 feet in the air and out in front of him, Warshauer's going to come down with most of those. So that's really all there was to it. Nothing super tricky other than just throwing it far and having a great receiver.
Yeah, nice duel tonight with Jeremy Langdon. Talk about him and you. We captured some of the conversations, by the way, to our audience.
I hope it was just the good ones. But no, Jeremy's fantastic. I mean, he's a superb athlete, and he really gives you just a really hard time whenever he's guarding you. He's fast, he's long, which gives him a good mark. And as a handler, you can't really push downfield on him too much because, that's where he thrives. He's a downfield guy. And he's smart. I think not enough people give him credit for how smart of a defender he is. There was a couple times you saw me hanging out on the weak side, and Jeremy just squeezed in and quickly recovered, and I still couldn't get the disc. So, I mean, that's a matchup I enjoy. We've got a little bit of history together for about 2 years. We've matched up on each other. So it's always a joy, and it's always a really tough battle.
Now, coming into the game, where were you guys in the balance of relaxed versus intense?
I think we were pretty relaxed. This is one of the most relaxed, laid-back teams I've been on during my time in Darkside, and that's saying a lot because last year's team was pretty relaxed. They were a lot about fun, but I mean, we were all piled in the van and we're just, you know, cracking up on the way here and all just relaxed. No tension really, not a lot of nerves, which is great. But no, I mean, it's just super relaxed atmosphere, which is great for, I think, a lot of the older guys and a lot of the young guys that play big minutes like Nathan Kwan and Matt Guccianis.
And lastly, we got to ask you about winning the Callahan. What was it like with the other finalists standing earlier today and receiving that award?
I mean, that's an awesome award to receive. And it's something, you know, I think every college player, when they start their career, looks at as like an esteemed prize that they would like to get. And, I mean, definitely when I started my career, I didn't think that was plausible. But, I mean, the other candidates were, I mean, I was nervous. I was a nervous mess the whole time up there because all the other candidates are just such great players. I mean, Matt Bennett's an outstanding thrower, one of the best I've seen. Max Thorne's great. Stanley Peterson's an outrageous athlete. But hearing that, you know, university, there was kind of that pause. I didn't know if it was going to be Pittsburgh, Colorado, what was coming next, and then North Carolina. It was a really great feeling. So,
thank you, Jonathan. Go get some rest. The big show's tomorrow.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Congrats, Nut.
Callahan Award winner, Jonathan Nuttercutt. We finish up here tonight with the USA Ultimate College Championships women's bracket. Once again, Oregon and Stanford win. They'll play for the title tomorrow on ESPN3 at 1 o'clock Eastern. And for the men, your winners tonight, Oregon and North Carolina, they will play at 3:30 Eastern tomorrow afternoon. Evan suits up for a great Final Four, great 2 championships tomorrow afternoon.
4 stellar programs coming up tomorrow. It's going to be a great Memorial Day Monday.
For Evan, I'm Jim Barber. So long from the soccer park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Again, North Carolina beats UCF 15-10. And to watch this entire game on replay, log on to WatchESPN.com or download the Watch ESPN app. Thanks for joining us tonight. This has been a presentation of ESPN.